How we doing, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ben Burnside Show. This show I've been wanting to do for a couple weeks now. This is more going to be a somber episode, but it's going to remember the career of the pro wrestler Kamala. Uh, Kamala is he, he was a he was an older professional wrestler. Uh, Particularly wrestled around I think the 1980s and a little bit in the 1990s as well, particularly the early half of the 90s. He passed away last month, or a couple months ago now, in August, at 70 years of age. And I just wanted to do a commemorative video of him. Uh, he he was definitely a part of that, my wrestling childhood growing up. Um, I came as a wrestler when his career was pretty much over, but when I was a kid, I'd always buy like the VHSs and stuff from the video store, and I would see Kamala on there, and Kamala always was a he was always a fascinating character to watch in terms of like the makeup and the character and just he was a larger than life one of those many larger than life wrestlers that you always remember as a kid. He wasn't a top star like Hulk Hogan, but he was a recognizable character. He was the Ugandan giant. He had the face paint and anything and everything with that, I should say. And was he just came off as just this monster from Africa. Oh, this monster from Africa that would eat you, and particularly in the 80s when he was more physically capable back then. Um, you know, I don't know if his gimmick, his character would fly today. I think, he definitely was. He was a character that definitely took the was definitely it's a dated character. Let's just go there and say that. But it's on record that the person who played Kamala, I don't want to get too out of kayfabe here, which is like kind of pulling the curtain of pro wrestling, but the person who was Kamala, he was on record saying that he understood the character and he didn't take it as being racist or anything like that. He took it as it being a character, like in a movie. So he was fine with it. He never took issue with it, and I frankly I don't look at it like that either. But I'm white, so but he didn't take it personally. That's kind of my point on that. Um, and I'm glad he didn't because he made a lot. He enchanted a lot of wrestling kids. Um, as with this character, it was a larger than life character, and it was awesome seeing it on screen. The first time I saw him, it was pretty much the end of his career. It was in 2001. My favorite pay-per-view maybe of all time, WrestleMania 17. Particularly one of my favorite matches on that great show was the gimmick battle royal, where basically all the wrestlers that were pretty much at the end of their career or they were retired at that point, they came out and they had a battle royal where they would throw each other over the top rope, and the last person in the ring would be the winner. Kamala, he was eliminated, but that's the first time I ever saw him. And he had that giant African like tribal mask, and he had his manager. I forgot what his manager's name was. I'll find out when I'm going to read his Wikipedia page and to kind of jog my memory and figure out his career going on here. Um, but yeah, that's the first time I saw Kamala. The first time I saw him actively in his career, I saw a VHS tape. I forgot the event, but he was in a feud with the Undertaker, and he was scared of the Undertaker. That was the storyline, and he was scared to face him. I think he was scared of a coffin. I don't know if they had a casket match, but they had he was scared of the Undertaker for whatever reason, and he would keep running and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was always fun seeing Kamala. again, and I saw him a little bit in WCW when he was a part of the Dungeon of Doom. So, uh, he's had a very memorable career, and I'm really upset that he went out the way he did with diabetes. He died apparently of cardiac arrest. Uh, wow. Eh, well, this is according to Wikipedia. Let's be careful here, but he died apparently due to cardiac arrest. I did hear that from another source, but it also says on here that it's due to complications stemming from diabetes, which is very well documented he had, and COVID-19. So I don't know, I don't know about that. That's the one part that I really question. But um, you know, I think that he just it's just a sad thing that he's gone. I mean, he's older now. He's 70. It's more understandable that he passed away, but I'm tired of seeing so many wrestlers go, man. I think the pro wrestling fan base is we're just still scarred from all the deaths that we've had. We've seemingly had just an unlimited amount of deaths in the last 15 years, and frankly, I am sick of it. Well, in the last 20 years, really, just an absurd amount of wrestling deaths, and they've died way too young. And I don't know. I think I'm still scarred by it. I'm still not over it as a wrestling fan. I don't think the majority of wrestling fans really have gotten past just how many deaths that pro wrestlers have gone through. It's just it's a lot. It's a lot to go through. But let's read the career of Kamala. I'm curious to see it because I didn't see much of his early career, particularly the 80s. And apparently he feuded with Hulk Hogan, to what I've learned. So let's read it here. James Arthur Harris, better known by the ring name Kamala, was an American professional wrestler nicknamed the Ugandan Giant. Kamala portrayed a fearsome and simple-minded Ugandan who wrestled barefoot in war paint and loincloth, and approached the ring wearing an African mask and carrying a spear and shield. Again, I get why people would be mad about that. The actor, he didn't mind it. So he understood that it was more of like a character in a movie. So, but I understand why people don't like that. But he is best known for his appearances with the WWF in the mid-1980s and early 90s. Early life. Harris was born. Let's look at his professional wrestling career. Sorry, I fast forward. I got into kind of his early life where he wasn't a wrestler, and I was beginning to state his life, and I realized this is coming from Wikipedia. Like, is this a good source? So at least with that portion of the Wikipedia page, I'm blocking it. But let's get into the professional wrestling side. Let's see here, because that's not as serious. Harris debuted in 1978 under the ring name Sugar Bear Harris. Yeah. He spent most of his early career in the southern United States, also using the ring names Ugly Bear Harris and Big Jim Harris. His first manager was Percy Pringle, who's ironically Paul Bear, the Undertaker's manager in WWE. He won his first championship in NWA Tri-State in 1979. So he was how old was he then? He was about so he was about 29 years old when he won that title, teaming with Oki Shikina to win the NWA Tri-State Tag Team Championship. In 1980, Harris joined the Southeastern Championship Wrestling as Bad News Harris, winning the NWA Southeastern Heavyweight Championship in 1980. In 1981, Harris traveled to Europe for seasoning. Following a stint in Germany, he traveled to the United Kingdom, where he wrestled for Joints Promotions as the Mississippi Mauler, a character with some similarities to his future Kamala character. In 1981 of June, he competed in a tournament for the vacant WWA, World Wrestling All-Stars Heavyweight Championship, losing to Wayne Bridges in the final in Wembley Arena in London. That's a giant arena. Harris returned to Senatobia, Mississippi, in the United States in 1982 after sustaining a broken ankle. While visiting his friend the Dream Machine at Mid-South Coliseum in nearby Memphis, Tennessee, to borrow ring attire, Harris met Continental Wrestling Association promoter Jerry the King Lawler, who offered him a job. Harris, Lawler, and Jerry Jarrett, who's the father of Jeff Jarrett, developed a new character for Harris, Kamala, later adjusted to Kamala. So Kamala was originally named Kimala, but they changed the I into an A later on. Drawing upon ideas for a character originally developed for Harris by the great Mephisto. The character was a vicious Ugandan headhunter with face and body paint copied by a Frank Frazetta painting. His backstory was that he was a former bodyguard of deposed president of Uganda, Idi Amin, who had been discovered by J.J. Dillon during an excursion to Africa. J.J. Dillon is a famous professional wrestling manager. That's who he is. A promotional vignette, which is like a video, a promotional video, aired on WMC TV featuring a spear-wielding Kamala, seemingly emerging from a steamy African jungle. The vignette was actually filmed on Jarrett's farm in Hendersonville, Tennessee, with the steam effect created using dry ice. To establish Kamala as a monstrous character, Jarrett instructed him to wrestle in a brawling style with chops and biting. To preserve kayfabe, Harris wore robes and refused to speak English while in public in Memphis. That's pretty committed to kayfabe right there. I like that. Kamala made his debut in the CWA in May of 1982 with Dillon as his manager, losing to Lawler by disqualification in a match that sold out the Mid-South Coliseum. In June, he defeated Lawler for the AWA Southern Heavyweight Championship, which he held until August that year. Toward the end of the year, he feuded with the imposter Kamala too. What? There was an imposter Kamala? That is awesome. There's an imposter Undertaker in WWE. So that's the parallels, the connections between him and the Undertaker is like getting kind of weird upon reading this. So that's kind of cool. In late 1982, Kamala began wrestling for Bill Watts' Mid-South Wrestling Promotion, which is a famous promotion. He was managed by Skandor Akbar and Friday, originally portrayed by Buddy Wayne, then by Frank Dalton. I don't know who those guys are. Forming part of Akbar's Villainous Devastation Incorporated stable. In April of 1983, he wrestled Andre the Giant in a highly promoted bout at the Louisiana Superdome. The Superdome. Not the Silverdome, Hulk Hogan. The Superdome. During 1983, he faced the Junkyard Dog in a series of Battle of the Monsters matches. Junkyard Dog wasn't a monster. He was a big guy, but he wasn't Kamala. Let's see. In March of 1983, Kamala debuted in Dallas, Texas-based World Championship Wrestling promotion, WCW. In October of that year, he challenged Harley Race, holy fuck, for the NWA Heavyweight Championship, losing by disqualification. In the same month, he began a lengthy feud with the Von Erich family, which is a famous pro wrestling family. Very famous, and a very tragic one. I compare them to, quite frankly, either them or the Harts as the Kennedys of professional wrestling. It's sad what's happened to that family. I would say more the Von Erich family qualifies as a comparison of the Kennedys, but repeatedly facing brothers David Von Erich, Kerry Von Erich and Kevin Von Erich. In May of 1984, I gotta watch these matches. He wrestled Harley Race. He wrestled a wrestler named Kamala too, and well, obviously I gotta see the match with Andre. And he wrestled almost all the Von Erich brothers, like at least all the good ones. Yeah. In May of '84, he faced the Great Kabuki and at the David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions, a tribute to David, who had died suddenly in February. Yeah, that's the beginning of the deaths in that family. Kamala continued to appear regularly with WCCW until late 1985. WCW is not WCCW. Those are two different organizations. WCCW is World Class Championship Wrestling, which is basically a promotion that's very heavily covered by the Von Erichs. It's a promotion where the Von Erichs live, which is in Texas. So it's a Texas. It was a Texas territory. It was a Texas professional wrestling organization / territory. You know, they took over the Texas territory, that organization. WWF, so in talking about WWF in 1984, at the insistence of Andre the Giant put in the word for him, Kamala debuted in the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, in 1984. He was managed by Freddie Blassie as a masked handler in safari clothing known as Friday, played by a variety of people. In a memorable segment on the television program Tuesday Night Titans, Kamala seemingly devoured a live chicken with a cutaway shot of feathers flying out of his mouth shown to create an illusion. Yeah, some of the stuff, it don't date well, but after defeating a series, but, you know, as a kid, to be fair, it was kind of scary to watch, right? So I will give him that. After defeating a series of opponents, including D. Brian Blair, Salvatore Bellomo, and Chief J. Strongbow, another David character. In August 1984, Kamala challenged Hulk Hogan for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship, wrestling him to a double countout. In October '84, he began a series of matches against Andre the Giant, among them a steel cage match, which he lost after Andre twice sat on his chest. Kamala's final appearance was in a battle royal of November 1984. Hogan didn't even beat Kamala. Hulk Hogan, in his prime, he didn't even beat Kamala. That's crazy. I didn't know that. He didn't even beat Kamala. After leaving the WWF in late 1984, Kamala went on to appear with multiple promotions throughout the United States and Canada. Throughout 1985, Kamala wrestled for the Minneapolis, Minnesota-based American Wrestling Association, or the AWA, which is a very famous organization as well, or it was, before WWE ate it up. But he was established as a monster by winning a series of handicap matches. He feuded with Sergeant Slaughter, whom he defeated in a Ugandan death match. I gotta watch these matches, holy shit. In April 1985, but lost in a boot camp steel cage match in June, I guess. Different matches for Sergeant Slaughter and Kamala that favored them. At the Supercard in September of 1985, Kamala lost to Jerry Blackwell in a body slam challenge. Toward the end of the year, Kamala repeatedly challenged Rick Martel for the AWA World Heavyweight Championship, but failed to win the championship. Wow. Rick Martel beat Kamala in the 80s? That's kind of weird. Rick Martel wasn't a big guy, and Kamala was like 300 pounds, easy. And they usually favored the big guys. In July of 1985, Kamala wrestled for Jim Crockett Promotions at the Great American Bash, unsuccessfully challenging Magnum TA for the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship. That's even weird too. He was in. I didn't know he was in WCW basically at that time. They're calling it NWA, but it's WCW. But it's weird. He's losing to these smaller guys. In November of 1985, Kamala made his first tour of Japan with All Japan Pro Wrestling, which was the big professional wrestling promotion in Japan during that period. Now it's New Japan. I don't even know if All Japan's around anymore. Wrestling as Giant Kamala, not just Kamala, Giant Kamala in Japan, he formed a tag team with fellow Gaijin King Cobra. He made a second tour in February of 1986 as Kimala. They changed it to the Kimala wording. In early 1986, Kamala had a short run in Montreal, Quebec, Canada-based international wrestling promotion where he was managed by a man named Eddie Creechman. Never heard of him. Returning to WWF, though, Kamala returned in July of 1986, now managed by the Wizard, who is a Hall of Famer, and the masked wrestler Kim Shee, usually portrayed by a guy named Steve Lombardi, who is the Brooklyn Brawler. Kim Shee is his famous manager. I forgot to say, I didn't remember his name, but he was the manager. That guy was in my head the whole time. I just couldn't get the name out of it. But he is the famous manager of Kamala. He is basically the Paul Bear of The Undertaker. He is what Paul Bear is to The Undertaker for Kamala. So Kim Shee is his very famous manager that Kamala has always had on his side for basically almost his entire career, except for apparently the early part. From November of 1986 to 1987, Kamala faced Hulk Hogan in a series of matches for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship, marking the pinnacle of his career. In February 1987, Kamala formed a tag team with Wild Samoan Sika. I believe Hogan beat Kamala, by the way, in those. So eventually Hogan did beat him. In the same month of February 1987, he began a feud with Jake the Snake Roberts, during which Roberts repeatedly exploited Kamala's purported fear of snakes. So he was scared of the snakes too. But so just like how Andre was with Jake in 1990, Kamala did that before Andre. So in 1987, the Wizards sold Kamala's managerial contract to Mr. Fuji. Harris abruptly left the WWF once more in September 1987 over frustrations about his pay. And I heard a podcaster named Solomonster, I'll give him credit, talk about that. He was upset about the pay he got in WWF, particularly the pay that he had with the Hulk Hogan matches. He thought, he should have gotten more than what he got. He didn't argue about getting Hulk Hogan money because he knew that was unreasonable. Hulk Hogan was the biggest pro wrestling star in the world, so he didn't expect to get Hulk Hogan money. But when you're in the main event of arguably the biggest company in pro wrestling at that time, and you're going toe to toe with Hogan, you would expect that you get some serious money, some serious cheddar. But credit to Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan provided all the hospitality, all the food and stuff when he was with Kamala, I guess, or at least during this period when he feuded with Hulk Hogan. And say what you want about Hulk Hogan, but he did that, and that's super cool, man. So, and Kamala talked about that in interviews. So, that's super cool of Hogan doing that for Kamala. And what was another thing? Oh, that's right. So there was an overall story apparently where Kamala had to deal with a lot of what he felt like was racism, you know, throughout all the promotions he's gone through, particularly, I guess, in the United States. And, I don't know where, to be fair, but where he felt like he wasn't paid as much as he should have been paid. And apparently that was a recurring story in his career, even in that time. So he did definitely made note of that in interviews too, and so I just it's unfortunate. Kamala was worth every penny. Kamala is like I said before, he's a larger than life pro wrestler. He should have been paid. So that's my take on it. He should have been paid. And he should have been paid handsomely. Um, if you're in the main event against Hulk Hogan, you should be getting big money. You know, you should be getting big money. Period. End of story. Especially if you book Kamala to wrestle Hulk Hogan to a draw, in 1984. It's bullshit that you don't get paid. But apparently he was mad around 1987. I don't know, maybe he wasn't as big of a star as he was in 1984. I'd have to really look at the archived footage of. I'd really have to watch WWF back in those days to really get the sense if Kamala wasn't as big of a star. Maybe it was that there were many wrestlers that grew their stardom at that point, because WWE at that time, they were really popping. Like I think WWE in 1984 they were popping too, but it wasn't as big as '87. It was the booming period for WWF with Hulk Hogan. Yeah, I don't know, but still, if even then you should be paid a shitload of money. And if that's the argument, maybe like if you're getting a lot of money because this is the golden period, the booming age, then you should argue that Kamala should get even more money. So I don't know. I don't know. There's more to. I'm going to read more into that at some point and wonder about that. So yeah, Kamala though he should get paid handsomely. He's a larger than life pro wrestler, and he always was. So let's go to where after he left WWF in 1987, USWA in various promotions. After leaving WWF, Kamala returned to World Championship Wrestling, where he feuded with Kevin Von Erich, and Michael Hayes before the promotion shut down in 1989, and he returned to All Japan with Abdullah the Butcher. From 1990 to 1991, he worked for Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre in Mexico, CMLL, the Mexican wrestling organization in Mexico. He wrestled everybody. He lost to Mil Mascaras, who's like maybe the biggest star in Mexican wrestling history, in a cage match in March 17th, 1991. Then he returned to Japan, working for All Japan, W-ing, and Super World of Sports into 1992. Sorry, it's a lot of talking. He then debuted for the Memphis-based USWA, which is United States Wrestling Association, in 1990, feuding with Jerry Lawler, and winning the USWA Unified World Heavyweight Championship 4 times. He left the company in 1992, where I guess he got an offer from WWF again. Kamala returned to the WWF on May 9th, 1992, with Kim Chi and Harvey Whippleton acting as his managers. Hello, guys. I am back. I am back to talk about getting back into the career here of Kamala. Sorry, I had some other stuff, other engagements going on here, but I am back. Where was I? Okay, I think I'm finding it here. He returned to WWF for his third run in '92. So, yep, here we go. Kamala returned to the WWF in May 9th of 1992 with Kim Chi and Harvey Whippleman as acting as his managers. Um, in June of 1992, he unsuccessfully challenged Randy Savage for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. Oh, they had him jump in pretty quick for the world title. See, Kamala has, he wasn't like a major player at this point, but he still competed for the world title. Um, so he, so yeah, he did challenge him for the title. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't say if it was a live event or not. I don't remember him facing Randy Savage in '92, so this could have been a Superstars or something. But Kamala's always been a big deal. He's always been a big deal in '92, and this just shows it. So throughout the rest of mid '92, he wrestled primarily in house shows with his regular opponents, including The Undertaker. There you go. Bret Hart, who was getting to be the big star at that point, Texas Tornado, and The Ultimate Warrior. Kamala lost to The Undertaker by disqualification at SummerSlam in '92. I think that was the show where I saw Kamala. That makes sense, where I really saw him. Kamala later claimed that he was paid $13,000 for the bout, while Undertaker was paid $500,000. I heard about this story too. In real life, that was the payment. And professional wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer questioned this claim, saying, "I'm not saying he's lying, but that's hard to believe. For there to be that big of a disparity wouldn't make any sense." I don't know. It's what it makes more sense if you're black, to be honest. But I don't know. I don't know. I have trouble believing it as I'm thinking about it now, about that kind of disparity. I mean, Undertaker wasn't the Undertaker at that point. He was getting to be a bigger star, no doubt. He was a babyface, but he wasn't the super legend that he is today. So, he was up and coming, and Kamala was more of the veteran. I mean, there wouldn't be that big of a disparity. And at this point, Kamala was a multi-time main eventer, and he was a monster. He's an attraction, so I don't believe it to be that. I don't know if it's that. I'm not ready to say I don't believe it, but there is questions about that for me too. But I'm not saying I don't believe it. In November of '92, Kamala lost to The Undertaker at Survivor Series in the first ever televised casket match. That's where I saw it. That's where I saw the match with Kamala and The Undertaker, and I was right. He was afraid of caskets, though, not coffins. Actually, I forgot what a coffin was. I forgot what a coffin was. Sorry. Coffin. There. But yeah, that's where I first saw Kamala, the '92 Survivor Series. So there you go. In January of '93, Kim Chi and Whippleman began mistreating Kamala, leading him to break away from them and align himself with Reverend Slick. I didn't know he aligned with Slick. Slick set out to humanize Kamala, leading to a series of skits in which he introduced him to activities such as 10-pin bowling. Kamala feuded with Kim Chi throughout early '93. In March of '93, he began a series of matches with Bam Bam Bigelow. The two were once scheduled to face one another at WrestleMania 9, but the match was canceled. In May of '93, Kamala lost a King of the Ring tournament qualifying match via countout to Mr. Hughes on an episode of WWF Wrestling Challenge. He went on to compete primarily at house shows until being released by the WWF that July. In December '93, Kamala was announced as a participant in the '94 Rumble match. However, during the bout, announcers noted that Virgil, as an alternate participant, had replaced him. That's interesting. That comes from an article from the Bleacher Report, that claim. That's weird. I didn't know that. I didn't know that either. So, I remember the '94 Rumble well. So, Honestly, that's kind of disappointing. There was a lot of big men in that Royal Rumble. They had Mabel, Bigelow, Crush, Diesel. Very memorable run for Diesel there, and they had Adam Bomb. They had another big guy. Oh, they had. Did they have Bundy? King Kong Bundy? I don't know if they had him there, but no, he was in '95, I think. But they had a lot of big. Oh, they had Bastion Booger, I think, was in there. Another like near 400-pound guy. That's unfortunate. Kamala's an attraction. I remember Kamala maybe more than I don't know. He's right there with Bam Bam. He's maybe a bigger star than Bam Bam in some circles, and maybe not bigger than Diesel. But I again, Kamala is more entertaining. He's an attraction. He's a fun attraction. He should always be considered for something as fun as the Royal Rumble. So after leaving the WWF once more, Kamala stepped back from professional wrestling. The person who was Kamala, he began working as a truck driver using two semi-trailer trucks he had purchased following his series of matches with Hulk Hogan. He only wrestled in independent shows and part-time for the USWA. In December of '93, he wrestled in India, where he won the vacated IAW Tag Team titles with Dusty Wolf and Leo Burke and the Mongolian Mauler. Interesting. So he's in 1995, though, at Hulk Hogan's suggestion, Kamala joined World Championship Wrestling. So that's where Hogan was well established in WCW at this point. He was introduced as part of Kevin Sullivan's Dungeon of Doom stable, whose goal was to end Hogan's career. In his first WCW pay-per-view, how ironic. Hogan brought him in, and now he's going to try to end his career. That's fucked up. But in his first WCW pay-per-view appearance, he defeated Hacksaw Jim Duggan at Bash and Beach. He lost a singles match to Hogan at Clash of Champions 31. 31, damn. He was part of the Dungeon of Doom team at Fall Brawl, which lost to Hogan's team, which were called the Hulkamaniacs. On January 24th, 1996, Kamala returned to the USWA for the final time, where he teamed with Brian Christopher and PG-13 to defeat Tracy Smothers, Doug Gilbert, Jesse James Armstrong, I think that's the Road Dogg, and Robert Gibson in an Iron Man match. Kamala participated in the gimmick Battle Royal at WrestleMania 17. There you go. He was eliminated by Sergeant Slaughter. On July 26, 2004, he made a surprise return to WWE, participating in a Raw Diva Search segment in which the female contestants were instructed to try to seduce him. I don't remember the segment, but I will be intrigued to look back. So, educational. Kamala faced Randy Orton on August 11th, 2005 edition of SmackDown, where he was accompanied by Kim Chi, but the match was interrupted by a message from The Undertaker to Orton and ended in a no contest. I don't remember that appearance either. This is where I was watching WWE. Kamala appeared at 2005 Taboo Tuesday event as one of the choices for Eugene's tag team partner. He lost the fan vote to Jimmy Snuka, but came to the ring after the match to deliver a big splash to Tyson Tomko. On June 25th, 2006 at Vengeance, he accompanied Eugene to the ring along with Doink the Clown and Hacksaw Jim Duggan to take on Umaga. Umaga quickly won, then attacked all three. But before Kamala and Umaga would fight, Umaga's manager, Armando Estrada, intervened. Umaga defeated in a match the following night on Raw in his last appearance for WWE. I saw that match. It was not competitive at all. I saw it just after Kamala passed, and I rewatched it. Yeah, not that competitive at all. It was a squash for Umaga. Kamala was just paying dues at that point. That's cool. It was just nice to see him at that point. That's all I want. Kamala, though, returned to wrestling and had a lengthy run in the independent scene with independent wrestling companies. He lost to his nemesis, Jerry Lawler. That's probably going to be either him or Hulk Hogan, his biggest rival in his career. Undertaker being close, too. So, uh, yeah, probably Jerry Lawler is his biggest rival in wrestling. He lost to Jerry Lawler at International Wrestling Cartel on July 20th of 2002. From 2003 to 2004, he made appearances for Memphis Wrestling. So he was always loyal to Lawler after he gave Kamala his name and all that stuff. The idea of his name. He lost to Jim Duggan at Wrestle Reunion 1 on January 29th of 2005. On September 30th of 2006, he wrestled to a non-finish with Bryan Danielson in a match for the Ring of Honor World Championship at an NWA appearance, or NWA event in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Yeah, I saw a good amount of that match. I didn't finish it, but it's just fun seeing that. I like that. I like that it went to a no contest. He didn't even pin Kamala. So this is Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan in WWE now. So future star in WWE. So that's pretty cool. Seeing a match between Kamala and Daniel Bryan. Those two are arguably there's a 30-year difference between the two in terms of ages. Alexa, how old is Daniel Bryan?
Bryan Danielson is 39 years old. He was born on May 22nd, 1981.
Alexa, cancel timer.
20 minutes time of
For some else. But, that's pretty cool. Even more than 31 years difference. So that's pretty dope. Kamala defeated Lanny Poffo, the brother of Randy Savage, at Great North Wrestling Events Wrestling Super Show at the Ottawa Super X in Ottawa, Canada. Kamala also appeared in TNA Slammiversary pay-per-view in June of 2008. I don't remember this. This is kind of shocking to me. As a guest at the Jay Lethal and SoCal Val's Storyline Wedding. I do remember that, too. What's going on here? But his last match was on August 15th, 2010 at Juggalo Championship Wrestling, with the Weed Man defeating the Haters, who are Polly and Vito Tomaselli, respectively. And that is the wrestling career of Kamala. That's pretty dope. It's a pretty dope career right there. Just again shows who Kamala is and just how accomplished of a star he is. So some of his accomplishments, looking back in terms of titles, he's done it all. He didn't win all the titles, but he was such an attraction that he didn't need the titles. That's where you're successful in pro wrestling, when you don't need those fucking belts. He never needed the belts. He was an instant attraction. Just look with his look. And he was larger than life, pure and simple. But some of the titles he won, he was a Continental, in the CWA, he was the AWA Southern Heavyweight Champion. I kind of ran through all the titles, but I don't want to name all of them. But some of the Hall of Fames he was in the Texas Wrestling Hall of Fame, class of 2012. Makes sense, because he wrestled the Von Erich so much in the 80s. USWA World Champion 4 times. That's his main base, pretty much. World Extreme Wrestling, he was in the Hall of Fame there. How ridiculous. He's not in the fucking WWE Hall of Fame. Where's he in the Hall of Fame? What the fuck? That's a bunch of bullshit. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Why is he not in the Hall of Fame? He's an attraction. But, whatever. And they didn't put him in when he was, still around. That's another bullshit thing. The WWE always does that, it feels like. They get these guys in when they passed away. When they're dead. And, They got to stop doing that. They got to put these guys in the Hall of Fame before something happens. So it's unfortunate, but you know what? Kamala had a great career. I wish he was paid more. He seems. I feel like as a fan, he deserves more just for what he brought to the table. He was something to watch. He wasn't. He was never an amazing wrestler in the ring. But it's not about that. It's about his look. It's about and the look. The look brings the money. It's never the wrestling in professional wrestling. It's always the look. It's at least in America. It's the look. It's the brass. It's the talk. It's the arrogance. It's the show. It's the personality. It's not fucking pro wrestling, okay? Except if it's like violence, then it would bring something. But you know, I don't know. And Kamala was one of those few larger-than-life wrestlers that people, I think, will remember for a very, very, very long time in the future. And that's what I gotta say about the Ugandan giant Kamala. Fun fact, though, I want to react to something I heard about. Kamala apparently released an album of him singing. Apparently, he is a pretty good singer. I want to at least listen to one of those songs before I go here tonight. So let's take a look here. Let's take a look. Kamala sings. Okay. So, all right. So it shows the full album on YouTube if you want to look it up. But I want to listen to one song here. Let's see. Yeah, damn it. It doesn't show all the songs. I'm gonna try to look for one song on here. Okay, here's a song I see. Have a Little Drink of Wine by Kamala. So let's take a look-see. Let's listen to his song.
Everybody grab somebody.
Recite.
Everybody grab somebody. Let us all have a good time.
Deep voice.
Everybody grab somebody. All right, here we go.
All right.
Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a load off, just let yourself be. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a load off, just let yourself be. Let's move the evening through the morning. The satellite loving, moaning and groaning. Let's move the evening through the morning. The satellite loving, moaning and groaning. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a load off, just let yourself be. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a load off, just let yourself be.
Longer than I thought.
Take off your hat, take off your shoes. You say you're gonna love me, ain't that good news? Take off your hat, take off your shoes. You say you're gonna love me, ain't that good news? Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a load off, just let yourself be. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a load off, just let yourself be. Do whatever now, what's on your mind. Do whatever now, what's on your mind. It's your time to
You're on my
shine.
mind, Kamala.
Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a little, just let yourself be. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a little, just let yourself be. All right, all right. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a little, just let yourself be. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a little, just let yourself be. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a little, just let yourself be. Have a little drink of wine with me.
I wish I had a drink with you,
Take a
Kamala.
little, just let yourself be. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a little, just let yourself be. Give me plenty of loving little country podcast. So when I die, it'll be about something.
Not at all.
Give me plenty of loving little country podcast.
Rest in peace, man.
So when I die, it'll be about something. Have a little drink of wine with me.
I'll drink to you, Kamala.
Take a little, just let yourself be. Let's move the evening through the morning. The Sunday loving morning and growing. Take off your hat, take off your shoes. You say you're gonna love me and that's good news. Give me plenty loving little country funkin'. When I die, it'll be about something. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a little, just a little bit of wine. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a little, just a little bit of beer. Have a little drink of wine with me. Take a little, just a little bit.
Ah, dope. That's dope. Ah, that's cool. That is cool. Have a little drink of wine with me. I would have one with you, Kamala. That would be cool. We would shut down the bar. Kamala, you were something to watch as a kid. Thank you for all the stuff you brought to me. Thank you for being larger than life as a kid for me watching as a wrestling fan. I appreciate everything you did, and rest in peace, man. You seemed like a cool guy. Have a little drink of wine with me. Everybody, slap your belly with me. All for Kamala. All right, man. Hope you guys liked it. Rest in peace, Kamala. Catch you on the burn side, guys. See you in the next video.